Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy technology principles applications. This video is about Ascension and the disaster cycle, and I may not be quite sure what I'm going to say in this video, but I'm pretty darn sure it's going to be highly unconventional, so just keep that in mind. And it's common for humanity and for people, according to what we have been told, that during this type of cycle, when we are coming to the end of the low cycle, we're going to move into the high cycle, and we're going to balance out, the energy on this planet and everything. That it seems like a lot of people often feel hopeless, and they feel like it's never going to happen. And that's just all part of the process. But then once it happens, of course, then it's all good and everyone's kumbaya and all that great stuff. And there's usually some people on the planet that start going through all these ascension processes before the shift actually occurs. But then for the majority of people, it really takes the pole shift to kind of lock in that energy and make it global, so that everyone basically is in that new energy, and that includes all plants and animals and of course all people and everything. The things that change are so dramatic, it's hard to even comprehend like what our perception and what our awareness is from this level of consciousness. And so like every single institution on this planet is going to change in this as we move through into this ascension cycle. And even our definitions of life and our ethics of life and how we define love, all these things are going to dramatically change and evolve as we move away from empiricism and we gain this perception of interdimensional awareness and things that we currently don't believe that like we can feel and touch, and they become part of our perception and part of our reality. It changes everything. So for example, like life becomes more about, the energy that's eternal and not necessarily about the physical, which is really bizarre, because then at the same time, we completely honor and respect all the physical life even more so than we do now. Like in terms of plants and animals and each other, there's so much more respect for all of that, and that's the process. The incarnation process is seen as so sacred, and it's valued so highly, even though what we may define as life is not necessarily physical anymore. And so and like even unconditional love, right now, unconditional love has a whole kind of definition around the world about, there's a variety of definitions, but we are so like ethnocentric in our definitions right now. We think about maybe ourselves or our family or communities or a nation even, or our planet. And as we move into an ascension level and we gain like more universal consciousness, our definition of unconditional love will basically mirror that, and we will start having the expression and the actions of unconditional love will be based on a universal consciousness. And what is the overall best thing for the universe from a universal perspective and awareness for love, and what to do for the planet and what to do for humanity and what to do in our place in the universe. And so all of these things just start evolving and changing in ways that really don't even make sense to us right now. And so it's really kind of important to be aware of that. And then another interesting thing is right now we are hell-bent on survival. So humanity at this current level of consciousness, we're so attached to the physical typically, and we are so just like anything to survive physically. But as we move into an ascension level, and then we have the magnetic energy technology to go along with that, our physical survival isn't really on the table anymore. We could essentially live forever. But what's interesting about it, though, is the irony about all of that is we get into this universal level of consciousness so that we recognize the cycles of life, the cycles of ascension and non-ascension, and the balance of the universe. And so we become less attached to our physical incarnations, and so that we willingly give up that to allow the universal cycle to be maintained. So there's a lot of things that can happen to like advanced civilizations on these ascension cycles, and it could be anything from leaving the planet with the technology that we basically leave the planet and assuming that we are in tune with the universal consciousness, and that we know that would be our path to do that. And so some people may leave the planet. Some people may stick around and go back into the low cycle and for assistance or helping others out or whatever it is. Some people may end their incarnations at that point, but a lot of people will use that cycle as a springboard to jump, either like to go to other worlds with the assistance of other beings that they have connected with, because we really become part of a universal community once we are in this ascension cycle. And so the idea of going to other worlds or visiting other worlds or even staying at other worlds and all of these things, and using this planet as that springboard to like go into a different level of existence, essentially, which is kind of cool, because the natural state of evolution to get there, like if you were to slowly evolve, could take, it could take a couple million years to get to that level. But when you have a planet like ours that like swings back and forth between ascension and basically non-ascension awareness or perception of reality, it gives beings this opportunity in a relatively short time span in the grand scheme of things to springboard off into whole other levels of living and awareness, and really being with other beings from around wherever we've connected to. It could be completely other galaxies, and it could be even other dimensions. And so it's kind of cool if you think about it that way, like the opportunities that are there. But it's also, part of this video is if you find yourself really kind of just being almost like pulled into this level of universal thinking and level of global thinking and then beyond the globe and all that, part of that is you're probably one of those people that's getting drawn into this ahead of time. And that could be super frustrating, because if you're looking around the planet and it almost seems like we're de-evolving, but you feel like we need to be going forward, at this point, one of the things that we've got to do is, if you're being called in that, is just stay super open to guidance and be ready to take action on when you get that incredibly clear, crisp, defined guidance on something to do. Just be ready to follow that and then move forward on that, and then maybe that will be your preparation for this kind of transition that we're going through. And I think that's about it for this. And just thinking about how ascension plays into the disaster cycle, and how we got to go through some disaster, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it's really transition. It's really looking at the universe from a universal perspective, because once we get into the ascension part of things, we don't really see it as disaster, if that makes any sense. We see it as a natural part of a universal process that's very important to the cyclical kind of balancing of life and the balancing of energies and neutralizing the energy as it returns to source outside of space and time. And so it's really important that we recognize everything for what it is, that it's all very well orchestrated, that it's all very well basically planned out, and that we are all engaged in that process. And yeah, that's extremely hard to do when our level of consciousness is basically, we're barely self-aware. Like, oh, I think, therefore I am. That is about to completely explode and into where we have attunement to each other, attunement to outside of our planet, attunement to a universal consciousness, to where we really recognize a much grander cycle, and we see the love and the intention and the light and the unconditional love in all these processes, including those things that we would call disaster. And so I think that's kind of the theme of this, and maybe just to get you thinking about that, or opening up to that in meditation or whatever. And yeah, this is a different kind of video, of course. I'm just doing what I'm guided to do. So with that, if you have thoughts or opinions or questions on that, please send them in, and thank you, and I will see you again.